Wealth generation. Leverage opportunities in food, energy sector, expert urges startups. Economic experts has advised business startups to capitalize on the vast opportunities present in the nation's energy, food and manufacturing investment deficits to create wealth in 2025. The founder and chief consultant of B. Adedipe Associates Limited, Dr. Biodun Adedipe, advised on Wednesday at the 2025 Nigeria Economic Outlook. The event was organized by the First Bank of Nigeria Limited in Lagos with the theme Nigeria 2025, Path to Economic Rebound and Recovery. Adedipe, one of the panelists at the event, emphasized that the successes of the last 2 years' reforms must be sustained. The experts identified manufacturing, energy, and food production as key drivers of growth that would help reduce inflation in 2025. He highlighted that there were enormous opportunities for startups in the food, energy, and manufacturing deficits, which were fundamental problems faced by developing countries. Adedipe urged the private sector to be innovative and to seize these opportunities rather than relying solely on the government. He also stressed that both food availability and affordability were crucial in driving down inflation. According to him, the government therefore needs to address insecurity to boost production. He noted that the deficits in food and manufacturing were the two major sectors that could drive inclusive and sustainable growth in 2025. Adedipe encouraged the private sector to explore opportunities in food processing to tackle the 60% wastage due to post-harvest losses. He stated that this was an investment opportunity for private sector operators. For me, it's not about government investing there. It's an investment opportunity for private sector operators, he said. He also noted that the major drivers of foreign exchange rates in Nigeria were the structure of the economy. The country consumes what it doesn't produce and produces what it doesn't consume, he said. Speaking on the oil and gas industry, he cited examples of oil production increasing after some international oil companies left the country. He, however, noted that locals put in additional efforts to expand the budgets for local refining of petroleum. He expanded the budgets for local refining of petroleum, crude oil, in which case about 30% of the value of a merchandise import is likely to turn in 2025 as we refine more crude oil domestically, he said. Adedipe also noted that the Nigerian economy grew to an average of over 3% in the first 3 quarters of 2024. The fourth quarter data, when released, may end at about 4.12% growth rate for 2024, he said. Panelists at the event include Osahon Ogeva, Bismarck Rewan, and Ugo Dire also made suggestions. Their suggestions included on how the federal government could achieve its planned drop of food inflation to 15% by the end of 2025. They promised solutions to address the availability of credits to businesses and Nigerians, climate change, tax reforms, and sustained foreign exchange growth, among others. The panelists also provided insights and recommendations to help the government and private sector work together to achieve economic growth and development in Nigeria. Mr. Dandy, this was an expert who was advising startups to the leverage opportunities in food energy sector. I would love to know your thoughts. Are you in tandem with this advice from the experts as a business strategist?
Very well, I agree with you. Totally, everything he pointed out is the fact.
Okay, so food, energy sector, are these just the two sectors that entrepreneurs could generate wealth from?
Well, he pointed out energy sector.
Yes.
And then pointed out food production, and then which he extended with manufacturing.
Okay.
And then from the point he raised, he said there are lots of opportunities in that area. And I agree with him that in Nigeria, as a case study, there are lots of opportunities in that area that he says startups should leverage
on these opportunities.
Yeah, so that's why I said it's a perfect, let me give it to him, his opinion.
Okay.
The perfect opinion, and then probably whatever it is. Said, if that's done, it's going to help us curb the situation, the inflation case that is ravaging our economy. Yeah. But what does he mean? That statement is big.
Okay.
It's big, very big, in the sense that, let me take one of the sector he mentioned, the energy sector.
Yes.
Before I go to food and then manufacturing. The energy sector in Nigeria is facing a lot of challenges.
Okay.
So much challenges. And if you understand his point, in Nigeria as a country, we've not been able to get it right in the energy sector.
Okay.
And because we've not been able to get it right, there's no constant power supply. In fact, we came from a situation where the government were fully in charge of the energy sector, and then they went into privatization.
Yes.
And since we entered into privatization, we felt that would have been the solution to Nigerian problem in the area of power or in the power sector.
Yes.
But it seems like that's not the solution so far. The reason is this. Those are the private sector. Are they in charge of power generation?
Okay, I also asked that because
that's been the problem.
Okay.
So it means that the government, to an extent, still remains to a percentage level.
The chief factor player.
Exactly, because the private sector, their own role is here to distribute electricity.
Okay.
So power generation, whatever it is, whether those who are generating, those who are distributing, if a startup or a starter can go into that sector and then bring a new innovation,
okay,
or get new innovatives into that sector, bring it into that sector, and try to bring a solution to constant power supply, it means that you're going to get it all right, you're going to get so rich, you're going to make so much wealth.
So it's now a case of them thinking outside the box.
Think outside. What is it that is happening, that is currently existing in our power sector that we are not getting right? That's what he was trying to point out. He said there are lots of opportunities in that sector. Somebody came up and we went into solar energy. To an extent, that has even, some persons try using it, to an extent it didn't even solve our problems. Probably because it has to do with so much, I don't know if I say it's capital intensive. Okay. Or whatsoever the challenge may be, or government policy didn't drive towards that angle, supporting that angle.
Yes.
Now, in that sense, it means that somebody can do something better than solar energy. And if you're the first to invent this, it means you make a lot of money. And if it's accurate, if it's durable, if it can solve Nigerian problem, you're getting it right. You're making a lot of gains from there.
Do you think that there's not been efforts towards this by entrepreneurs?
No, the issue here is that there are efforts. What he's saying is this: so many persons can be making effort. As a starter, try and go into that sector. Do something differently from what is currently existing in the economy.
Okay.
Do something differently. Let's see if what you have been able to produce can give us what we want to be able to tackle the economic challenge in the power sector. That's just the issue. You know, Nigeria operates in a laissez-faire market system where anybody can just come in, go into the market and walk out of it. So if you have the opportunity, if we're operating in a mixed economy, where the capitalist system of the economy is allowed to thrive, and then that of the socialist system economy is allowed to thrive, and then it means everybody have the opportunity to go into the market, go into production, going to bring new ideas to that sector. So the point is this: he's trying to encourage starters. He called it startups. Yes. I don't know the language according. I'm just trying to picture what he used. Now he's trying to encourage so many persons. He said there are a lot of challenges in Nigerian power sector. Come up, can you be the solution to power in Nigeria?
So as a business strategist, you understand that business is for profit.
Yes.
So would you advise somebody who is starting up to delve into a field where he knows that the risk there is something that probably at the end of the day he might gain nothing out of it? And
of course, I agree with you that the motive of every businessman is to make profits.
Yes.
But risk bearing is one of the good qualities of a businessman. So if you also do something differently, you penetrate the market.
Okay.
You penetrate the market.
Yes.
Ceteris paribus in this case. You penetrate the market. But if you also come back to the market and then do same thing everybody is doing, you won't even, nobody sees you. If I want to overtake the brand Dangote, for instance,
okay,
what do? I try to go into market survey and then try to know what Dangote is doing.
Market survey, okay.
And then do something differently. If you do that, because you must, even in this, should I say, the telecommunication sector, for you to be able to penetrate, for your brand to be able to gain the market, penetrate the market, people want to see your quality.
Okay.
People want to see your quantity.
Okay.
And then before we talk about your brand, your quality, your quantity announces your brand. And if that happens, you're in charge. So if you are a starter and you want to do the same thing everybody's doing, nobody sees you. So you must begin to understand that while you have profit maximization as your motive, there's risk bearing in business. So risk bearing, going into that is also risk bearing. Ideas. What's the new thing in your brain? What do you have to offer differently from what's existing in the market?
How about an environment where, if you're an entrepreneur that finds himself in an environment that does not support healthy competition?
That's where I also say that that's at the point where I disagree, where he said government do not necessarily have to get involved.
Yes.
So what do you mean when you talk about security aspect? The government have to be there. So who create the enabling environment? And then when you talk about in a competitive market system,
yes,
you know, you cannot live in, except you want to go into monopolistic market system. We operate in an economy, a mixed economy. Nigeria operates in a mixed economy. It's not just a capitalist economy.
Is it really a mixed economy?
It's a mixed economy, yes. The government is what do we mean by mixed economy? The capitalists are allowed to own their own businesses. Individuals are allowed to own businesses. That's where capitalism comes in.
We also have in the system where they are allowed. We also have this one. I would love to use a cadre, like a step where we have the big capitalists and then the upcoming capitalists. So the big capitalists tend to be the one who influence most decisions. That's why I ask, is it really a mixed economy?
I agree with you. That is hierarchy in business. That is what he's saying. He's saying, what do you have as a starter? Don't do same thing that is happening. For instance, I want to go into the power sector and I come up with transformer and then wait for federal government to generate electricity before I could be able to distribute. What difference have I made in the market? Who comes to me? So if I want to supply, if I want to generate power to a Ozoba, for instance, and then those Aromola are having something different, with those at Ozoba wish to patronize me, or wish to patronize the man who is doing differently at Romola. That's the point. So in a business system, come up with new ideas. There are hierarchies. There are persons who came up with new ideas that have lifted them into hierarchy, into a a pyramid, into a greater part of the pyramid. So if that happens, and then you have the new ideas, you are going to take from skit makers, do something differently. People tend to move into that. See, the market has to do with forces of there is a market force. Okay. When we talk about the forces of demand and supply, and then in this case, the consumer wants to enjoy whatever the consumer is paying for. Every consumer, the motive of every businessman is to make profit. The motive of the consumer is to enjoy his or her life from whatsoever he or she is paying for. So if I pay for a good or commodity, let me say I pay for a commodity, and that commodity could not give me satisfaction, I did not derive utility from that commodity I've consumed, I won't go back for it. Definitely. Never. So if you come up to the market and penetrate the market and find out, study the power sector, and then find out that this is just the little I can do, you put yourself at the top from wherever whosoever has been on top.
No, a question keep bubbling in my head. I have watched street fairs whereby we have young people come up with innovations of how to where we have biogas generation, and we have people come up with innovations on how to generate electricity. And I've noticed that over time, after those street fairs, you don't hear of those innovations again.
You know why? Let me give you a new idea now. One of the ways to make money in business is to organize seminar.
Okay.
One of the ways to also make money in business is to organize trade fair. Whatever you're going to organize. And that's why we must always differentiate business from motivational speakers.
Okay.
Motivational speakers are those who want to talk to you and you feel like heaven and earth is open. Why a businessman is the man who is ready to take risk. A motivational speaker is not even ready to take risk. He just talk and talk and talk all the talk. Why that who is a business tycoon, a business person, will take the ideas of what a motivational speaker have put down
and run with it.
And run with it. And then you keep motivating while he keeps making money, paying you to even motivate more. That's why Nigeria economy must have to develop. We have more. It happens among the politicians. And that's why most politicians come to do the talking. And nobody is putting things on ground. We have natural resources almost in every state. Are we utilizing them? Are we harnessing the natural resources we have? No. Because we are having politicians, the wrong aspect of ideas, where most politicians see themselves as the talkers, the motivational talkers. In fact, they've even target political statements. So when you keep having that ideas, it won't work. Okay. So one idea, one strategy the motivational speaker have learned in business is the idea of organizing seminar. Talk the talk. Those who attended the seminar will pay for it. Once you pay, he's after the money.
Then what happens to the person who the wrong innovators who take their time to develop products and anticipating that at that trade fair they will get investors come in and maybe buy their idea, and at the end of the day we don't see such things happen.
That's why you need to differentiate the difference between a motivational speaker and a business person. So if you're going there as a business person, take what the motivational speaker have said, then involve the risk. The problem is that we want to put money and we don't even want risk. We want to take the risk. Coming into this studio today is even a risk. And that's why some persons are saying, I'm not a risk taker. Everybody's a risk taker. Yeah. But when it comes to spending your money, investing your money, so many persons are scared. But those persons, like you said, there are some persons who are the top and not. How did they get to the top? They took risk. Some of them deny themselves food. So you must not only be the consumer, you should also take yourself to be the producer. And that's why the economy is not growing.
One more question before we go into the food sector. And I'm trying to understand the fact about risk taking and being action oriented as a business person. I have an idea as an entrepreneur. Okay, I want to create a niche in the energy sector, and I develop a strategy, and I present my idea. This is what I have in line. Now, I may not have the fund to push my idea. How do I go about it?
You know, in business, when you talk about, probably when you get to production, there are factors of production.
Okay.
And one of it is what? Aside land and all that. You have capital. You as an entrepreneur, you're there, and then you need capital to develop your ideas. You can't run business without fund. You can't run business without capital. So capital is important.
He said startups.
Startups. You can't just start, except you want to be, how? Now, most of the persons you tag as motivational speakers, do you know, most of them go beyond mere motivational speakers. And the main reason why they organize the seminar for them to be paid is just so they can make money out of it. Maybe generate capital from that and then invest it into something they've targeted.
No.
So as a starter, you must have to develop idea. The first idea you develop is how to generate fund, how to generate capital. You can't even go into a business without capital. How do you get your land? Even you as an entrepreneur, you need to eat to be able to think well.
Yeah.
Even the pen you are using to write, you need to buy it.
Yes.
Let's say you want to start with a shop. You pay for the shop. If you don't have a land, you buy you go and get one, or you lease one out. So whatever it is, the strategy, the first thing to know that you're a good starter is the idea you're putting on the table to to be able to generate capital.
As a business strategist, do you think that we have the conducive environment that could encourage more startups to go into these sectors?
That's because the government have to come into grants and loan. The government should support. That's also again where I disagree with the speaker. Where he said the government we should not necessarily come in. But in the case where we found ourselves in an economy where the government, you can't access any grant by the government currently. You can't possibly access a loan from the government currently. What do? Should everybody fold their arms and die? No.
I think that there are loans and grants out there, but the problem is most of these startups are not aware.
No, if you talk about loans and grants, what's the interest rate? The interest rate determines how a starter goes into such loan. You know, every starter must begin to look at the interest rates of every loan. It's very important. So the bank, let's say one commercial bank is giving you a particular interest rate. What about the mortgage bank? What about the other banks? I just don't want to mention. I'm trying to not to mention them. So how about the other banks? Okay, let's go through only the commercial banks. There are different commercial banks. There is even the microfinance banks. Ordinarily, the microfinance bank, their motive is to give loans. But again, you check, what's the interest rate of such microfinance bank? We also have the new generation microfinance bank that are giving out POS and all that.
Yeah.
Now, we also have some other microfinance bank that are online.
Okay.
And they're telling you to get loan and all that. What's the interest rate? So if the interest rate is much more bigger than the interest you're expecting, in that, if I don't even go the interest, if the interest rate is even far bigger than the cost of production, is a problem.
So to somebody watching now, as a young startup, what would be your advice in such a situation? Should you allow our ideas die?
No, the idea you shouldn't die. First, think on how to generate fund. How do you generate fund? If you think there is a way you can get grants, good. If you cannot get grants and there is a loan, soft loan, with low interest rates, go into it. But if you cannot also, of course, every business person goes into loan. They cannot even say how you survive. And except your father or your relative is one big man who has already made it and then decided to give you a support. Now, if there's no way, the only option here is loan.
Okay.
If you also feel, there are also some persons who are exceptional in knowledge. Think of simple ways to generate fund without going into loan. Start with even the 100 naira you have. 100 naira you have can give you something. Except in this economy now.
I was to ask,
except in this economy now. My reason is this. Before now, if you have 100 naira, we're being practical now. If you have 100 naira, you can get a cup of granite. This is not even the main reason why I'm here, but I think for the purpose of this program, if the listeners have to learn this. Now, if I have 100 naira, before now, okay, let me go to the current reality. I have a 1,000 naira. A 1,000 naira can give me certain cups of granite. Certain cups of granite.
Okay, certain.
Yes. So if I'm able to get 2 cups of granite, for instance, do you know granite have the capacity to generate ×2 of that same fund you made purchase of?
It's possible.
Good. So if I have double, I've got my cost of purchase is 1,000 naira, and then I'm making profit of another 1,000 naira. Is my business growing or not? Patience is one aspect every starter must have.
Okay.
Patience.
Okay.
Wisdom.
Okay.
And then the ability to generate fund. So if I have the patience of generating 1,000 naira additional, and I want to increase my business, I may not just go for 1 rubber of granules. I now decide to go for 2.
Okay.
If I have 2, I've elaborated my business. And because I've elaborated my business, I can decide to also take another risk and put the 2,000 naira inside that business. Now with my strategy as a business person, remember there must be packaging,
okay,
in which you must be able to attract consumers to your own. Yes.
Okay.
So if I go into that and I have more, with the analysis I gave on 1,000 naira, you now have 4,000 naira.
These are cost effective. Branding is on that area of its own.
No, in this case, you've not even given yourself a business name. Okay. Because economy allows you, Nigerian economy allows you to go into the business without even registering with CSE. Okay. I want to go into groundnut selling in SME business, and I just get a place. All I need is a place to start. It is when your business have grown to an extent that you feel you want to register the business, you want to have a business name, you can go into that.
Currently, you don't have to feel because it's mandatory.
It's mandatory?
Yes.
Okay, whatever it is, but whosoever that is making it mandatory should also try to understand that the current economic situation, except you want to make it hard for starters. I'm a starter. I don't have money to go into that. How much is it free to register my business? No.
From 30,000.
From 30,000, it costs you up to 30,000 naira. And if I can use my 30,000 naira to start a business, I know where to get me to. 30,000 naira is not something small to start up an SME business. You know, except you're not ready to take the risk. So the main purpose here is every businessman, every starter should be willing to have patience in taking risk. Take the risk. Allow your risk to produce. Allow the output from your risk. Use the output, invest into more businesses. And before you know it, it will grow. In fact, there is this story, unconfirmed though, that the Dangote we have now got, is it 500,000 from uncle and all that, and then he started there. Some people say they were hawking and all that, and look at where they are. Even go to entertainment, the Sabi news of the thing that we're talking about now. He started with something. I even saw the video yesterday where he was just very small. And they were saying, what is father? He said, Papa, and all that. Those are issues.
Okay.
So it is not about your little beginning. It is about the output.
Yes.
The output, the success you make later. That's most important.
Before we leave this story, based on time, what are the opportunities in the food sector?
Food sector.
As a business strategist, that's one could decide to venture into.
You know, I don't know, I can't remember the name. The man pointed out something. Adedipe. And he said something. He said, the economy cannot grow. No, he said, if you want to tackle inflation, we should go into food production.
We produce more than we consume and consume more than we produce.
Very well. The opportunities here are much. So much. In fact, Nigerian economy, every economy is dependent on production, on what the people produces.
Yeah.
Food production is so important that if you have anything, right, if you have whatsoever thing you can produce and rebrand for people to be able to consume, you've penetrated the market. For instance, some persons, before now we used to know these little granite, then we call it Hausa granite. Recently we knew it was tiger nut. Yeah. Some persons saw an opportunity to now rebrand it. And then they are making a lot of money. They are even making a lot of supply. Some other persons, before now, Gary, you know Gary?
Yes.
Gary, we so underrated Gary in so much that we felt, in fact, if I'm even eating to an essence, you try me, I can stone you with that Gary. Not until recently that the price of Gary has gone so high.
So it's not gold. Nobody stones
anymore. It's now something else. Do you know what happened? Some persons rebranded that Gary.
I've actually seen some.
Good. If you get to supermarkets now, you see Gary.
With granules, we have granules.
And not good, even some have milk on it.
Yeah.
So these are the opportunities in the area of food production, even in the area of food.
Okay.
What can you do differently? Everybody needs food to survive. What can you do differently? How can you be able to convince the consumers that this food has more nutrients than the other? What we are talking about here is already produced food.
Okay, because I was about asking that.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Okay,
now, going back to the area of raw materials, because that's the one they refer to as unproduced.
Unproduced, yes.
Or not yet produced. Raw materials. You know, there are so many raw materials in Nigeria. Nigeria is so blessed with so many raw materials. Recently, under the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, the then Minister of Finance, and coordinating the Minister of Finance then, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala
Iweala.
now came on air, and then she was trying to advertise a product from cassava. And that's what cassava flour. That was the first time we started hearing cassava.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It might have been in existence.
But not as
good.
Obvious,
now, that was advertised. And then, the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, was made to eat bread produced from cassava flour.
Strategy.
That's one opportunity so many persons, so many starters have not been able to
leverage on.
Into. That's one. Now, there are so many other things. So many other things. Some persons are even extracting from the fruits we have. Some persons are extracting juice out of it. And then they're making a lot of gains out of it. There are so many things to produce. So many to produce. Even the grasses we have around us. Do you know so many persons are making money out of the grass, and they tell you these are herbs. Recently, we started hearing of herbs. Ordinarily, when we were growing up, and those days in school, you have to go and cut the grasses away. In fact, I visited one man who is into this herb production. And then I saw grass to his door. I said, Uncle, how can you allow grass? So he said, leave it is medicine.
Interesting.
To the other person, they are grasses.
Yes, weeds.
To him, is source of income. So that's what the man is trying to say.
Okay.
So there are so many opportunities. There are lots to produce. Even the stick. Some persons use it as cane. In fact, to an extent, some persons have even turned the cane into the market. Some persons have turned the stick into what's it called? Toothpick.
Toothpick, yes.
What do you do? In fact, there's this thing I'm seeing now. Those days, there's this cotton board. Those days, it has to do with a plastic, and now they're using stick. They're using wood on it.
To put on it, yes.
So these are opportunities in that areas that Nigerians have to leverage on.
I think so. In a nutshell, you're saying it behoves on the entrepreneur to clearly see these opportunities and maximize them.
Very, very important.
Very important.
Very important.
I would love to thank you, Mr. Dandy Loveday, for